You ever get judged for something you buy? I buy things on impulse because if I don't, I never see them again. Especially in video game stores, where digging through bargain bins leads to things that grab my attention and cause the employees to tell me that their inability to do inventory in their own store sucks. I've done this so much that I've actually leaned into causing moments of awkwardness for people. I lived in Toronto, Canada in 2018, and the day that Red Dead Redemption 2 came out, I decided that I would walk into the EB Games next to the Ed Murphish Theatre in downtown, where you would watch Hamilton or Jesus Christ Superstar, and while everyone was spending up to $150 Canadian on Red Dead 2, I fished through the bargain bins like a freak and got Ride to Hell Retribution for less than $2. Here's the receipt. Talk about whiplash. I've gotten some really personally intriguing titles through doing things like this though, and that is where this game comes in, Falling Stars. I never thought I would encounter this in the wild after I experienced this game through a couple videos online and finding out what a critical failure this game was. You would think because it is considered so low that it would have garnered more attention, but sadly this is not one of those examples. This game, like many others, is slowly being lost to time, as most reviews are gone or whatever is left feels surface level and rather bitter and angry. So today I wanted to leave a little something for this poor little piece of entertainment. I can't say that it'll be positive, but I will try my best to be constructive. 2008 was a strange year for the PlayStation 2. There was some incredible games that came out, even though the PlayStation 3 was 2 years old. Games like Persona 4, Yakuza 2, Eternal Poison, Persona 3 FES, Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law, oh I have that one, Dynasty Warriors 6, Chaos Wars, okay, oh no. Hannah Montana Spotlight World. Anyway, there was still life going into the system. Enter Falling Stars, which released on PlayStation 2 in North America in August of 2008, 1 year after its initial release in Europe in 2007 on PlayStation 2 and PC. It was developed by Lithuanian developer Evilgames, now known as Nordcurrent, developers as such games as those that might be available for purchase. Falling Stars is not even on the list that is easily accessible, so who knows what else they do not want to be associated with anymore. It was not well received, being one of IGN's worst reviewed games, and only getting in 32 on Metacritic across 6 reviews, so not a lot of talk about this game either. Mostly, the blurbs about the game talk about how it could be a kid's first RPG, the battle system's awful, as well as the minigames, and everything is pretty basic. Sadly, most of these reviews are no longer available, so I can't get more detail other than the IGN review, which, beyond hating everything, talks about the look, how this really isn't even for kids, the battle system being tedious and easily exploitable, and the loading times. And I agree with a lot of the points made, especially the loading times, because they are really bad for what you're going to be doing a lot of in this game. The easiest comparison is that this game has loading times like Sonic 06, because they generally last 30 seconds at a time, loading between anything. This game is poorly optimized, and I've heard worse things about the PC version. The game only crashed once for me on my PS2 due to not knowing what to do between entering a fight and entering dialogue with an NPC at the same time, which is understandable. But let's take a moment to dive in properly into the game from the very start, and by that I mean the cover, because we are about to judge the game based on that. I think what burned this game from the start is the title itself. Falling Stars. It's certainly a poor title, almost a working title. Difficult to search for without putting PS2 or game after it, and after playing the game does not connect to anything at all. We have our determined girl and an animal companion who is strangely unclothed on the cover when in the game he has an outfit of his own, probably concept art slapped on, but then there is the back, which gives a summary. An ancient spirit has detected a dark power awakening in the peaceful world of Dazalon. Realizing the impact this could have, it sends a young spirit who takes over the body of a young girl named Luna. As Luna, your mission is to destroy evil and restore peace. However, this will not be an easy task. You have to complete various quests, participate in challenges, and train your pet for the ultimate battle against Luna's wicked uncle, Matt. Falling Stars is a role-playing game that features an engrossing story with many hours of exciting and fun gameplay. The town of Dazalon is depending on you. And then they go and also use the word exhilarating to describe the gameplay as well in the bullet points. Now, the point about an engrossing story you would think is also not true, but everything is subjective, right? Turns out, despite the confusion about whether or not Dazalon is a world or town in the summary on the back of the box, I was actually rather engrossed with the story because of the initial twist. We do not play as Luna, we play a spirit who has body snatched Luna. And this is generally interesting as a storytelling element, and I was wondering where it was going to go. In the beginning of the game, the spirit is instructed to travel across dimensions, I guess, to see what is going on in Dazalon that might affect the whole of the cosmos. We have high stakes at the start, and then we crash back into reality with the dead-eyed look of Luna and how this twist is handled. Or dropped and swept under the rug until it needs to be brought back up again? Seriously, there are many questions that come up with a plot point like this, such as, was Luna's soul removed from her body? If so, where did it go? Is it repressed inside of her body with the spirit being dominant? How were we able to communicate with all of the townspeople? Did we gain all of her memories and understandings of her world? Did we send her spirit to the other dimension in order to maintain cosmic balance of souls? But wait, it says also in the manual that the spirit takes on the form of a young girl named Luna. Does Luna even exist? Did we strongly alter Dazalon to introduce a new person with a house job, personal connections, and everything? What is a heart maker? This very concept, introduced at the beginning of the game, could have been a driving force for the entire plot. However, there is another plot that the developers had that got in the way and were not able or simply did not think about how the plot and this concept could have meshed together better. And then we have what is in front of us. Check out the map in the top right corner. That's the world map. Falling Stars' world is very small, which would be fine if it had a lot of things to do inside it. It brings me to how I feel about this game as a whole. Falling Stars is not inherently bad. It is not terrorizing people with how horrible it is. It's a poor experience because the game is covered in a feeling of being unfulfilled with itself. Like there is a vision here that, with a complete rehaul and fine-tuning of the overall vision, along with a lot more given time, it could have been at least passable. For now, let's go meet Shrek. I mean, Uncle Matt. Matt looks like this because he's been working inside of an abandoned mine for a long period of time, finding things inside that he was experimenting with. There's little reason to not believe Matt is the villain of this game, and when you do, further conversations with him have a sense of humor to them. Like, you know, helping him. He's exhausted, get 5 energy potions for him so he can keep working. His pickaxe is worn out, buy him a new one. It's really astounding. Making Uncle Matt the villain could have been cool due to the family dynamic with Luna, but remember, Luna's technically not here, so that story element doesn't work well anymore. It also doesn't work well because of the surface level writing, but there are layers here. What can I say about how everything looks? It looks simple, it does the part it needs to. At least it's colorful. It doesn't make sense that the game is as poorly optimized as it is with its loading between zones because there should be a lot of detail to load. But again, here we are. But at least they could have made character models not look as sickly as they do. You go and talk to Artis for a pickaxe, by the way, and he serves as the example. You see his character portrait in the corner versus his in-game model and wonder what went wrong. What treatment is he going for? I wish him the best. In fact, let's go for a boat ride as work. Water Lilies is the first minigame you have access to in Falling Stars, and possibly the only one depending on how you play. People hate this minigame because of the controls, using the analog sticks as independent oars of the boat to paddle. If you can get the rhythm down, it is a little better, but that is not the worst thing about this minigame to me. It is the lily pads themselves you have to collect. For some reason, it wasn't difficult enough to get used to the boat controls, but the lilies will push you strongly away from them because they have a built-in power fan. So cross your fingers that you approach a lily at the right time from the right side that their turbine doesn't blow you away. This is also arguably the best way of making money in the game as well, so get comfy. Now, remember that Uncle Matt is the villain because when you give him the pickaxe, he reimburses the cost for you. One of a kind. And now we have to find a specific blue pet for him. So let's talk to Bobo of the Viscount von Bobolissimo, who is trying to save his kitten, or kitten. So let's save Kitten with pillows. We then learn more about what Matt is doing in the mines. He is performing experiments on pets and turning them into monsters. Oh no, we can't believe this, but it's the truth. For refusing to bring the pet back to Matt, he releases his monsters all over Dazalon, and now enemies in the form of glowing balls will be around everywhere. We can't fight them yet, kinda like Pokemon, so if we run into them we lose money instead. And this is what happens when we lose a fight too. It is very rare to get a game over state in this game, apart from specific points. But it is important to save a lot just in case. This game has no autosave feature, so you need to return specifically to Luna's house every time you want to save. So now our goal is to stop Matt, and find out more about the mines, and get Matt's pet named Komi. Unless Komi is in Luna's house, he will always look like a living backpack for Luna. So let's talk about Komi, because he serves as a majority of the RPG elements. Our goal is to train Komi so that he can take on Matt and his monsters. He has 3 stats to increase: agility, strength, and endurance, and the more they are increased, the higher level Komi will be. Komi will also receive access to perks and extra bonuses every 4 levels, such as critical damage and higher evasion rates. Komi also gets hungry after battling and losing health, so pet food is required, and also has a mood meter, which... honestly, I don't know what it's for. I never saw it go down enough to see any effect in battle. So how do battles work? Rather simply, actually. Almost too simply. You and the enemy wait for a time bar to fill up, kind of like an active time battle gauge without the active part. You gain action points you use to select one of 3 different attacks: fast, strong, and mega. Depending on the attack, it affects the time bar differently and uses a different amount of action points. When you choose an attack, the enemy will try to block it, and vice versa with a matching defense action. If you or the enemy succeed at guessing which attack is used, damage is reduced. I highlight the word guess because that is what it is in the beginning. Guessing. There are no tells or hints for what the enemy will do other than how many action points they have at the time. A similar sentence is also in the manual to state how basic this battle system is. However, there is another sentence. Each monster type has its own attack strategy with small random variations, which can be learned and effectively used. This is also semi-true for defense strategies. If you fight the same monster enough, you will learn how the developers personally programmed the simple if-then statements for which turn of the fight you are on, which is very transparent. Nothing is complicated here on the surface. An interesting addition, however, is Luna being involved in battle as well. She serves as support in different ways depending on how deep into the game's mechanics you want to go. She gets a time bar of her own, and on her turn she can heal Komi using a sort of prayer spell, use items and potions, and also spells you can get access to later on if you choose to do the appropriate side quests, including light spells and dark spells that provide buffs and debuffs. I will mention now that you get the dark spell variants from Matt himself. Again, he's the villain, but Luna's turn is, how you say, busted? If you look up the controls by pausing, which you can do at any time in different areas to see different control schemes, which is helpful, you will see that rotating the right analog stick will charge Luna's time bar faster, most of the time instantly, sometimes allowing 4 or more turns for Luna before the fight continues. This allows for infinite healing from the free prayer spell, and constant use of buff spells if you choose to get them, removing all challenge from fights. Before you start the game, you choose the difficulty you want to play on, but because of this ability to abuse abilities, difficulty doesn't matter. You can feasibly fight enemies up to 20 levels higher than you, and win if you can stand fights lasting as long as 15 minutes. 15 minutes of looking and listening to just this. Bobo is 9 years old, by the way. The most logical step after getting Komi is to go straight back to Matt, which we do. And after training Komi, or not, challenge Matt to a duel in order to figure out why he is here at the mine. Challenging Matt directly is how the story goes forward. Maybe there is a lesson here at directly confronting your problems? Defeating him awards us with his diary, which we somehow cannot read and need translated. But if we decide to help him afterwards and get a chemistry book from him, we can learn dark magic from him. To get Matt's diary analyzed, we need to meet our pompous string bean scientist who needs crystals, which we get by magic splashing birds. Moving on, the diary tells us of a legend that underneath Dazalon's hill where the mine is a great power that is good or evil depending on the person. Matt is such an evil man. I'm ashamed to have him as my uncle. Remember, we are a spirit taking over Luna's body. I think the game forgets, or the spirit is just trying really hard. We report back to the other dimension only for them to cut out and disappear before we get our final task. But we can try guessing what that is. This is the last time we see the ancient spirit, by the way. We duel Matt a second time to get more information out of him. Yes, I told you there is always a peaceful alternative, and I was right. My training to beat the crap out of you is the peaceful way. I would hate to see what the violent way is. He said he met a scientist that told him about the legend, and that he is close to the ultimate power. Next time, he will perform experiments on himself. The world is now completely open to us, too. To get to the place Matt met the scientist, we need to do what might be the saddest challenge of the game: crossing a river. Pay attention to which rocks sink in the river and don't jump onto them. This one can be confusing to get around, because it shows the rocks sinking as you face the river, and then the camera reverses when the challenge begins. Oh no, I fell. You find out who the scientist is, and he received a letter about the legend from the absent-minded person in town who has severe short-term memory loss, but can't remember who gave it to her because she doesn't have more medication for her memory loss. So you go talk to the person in town who dislikes Luna the most, who provides the medication for a very steep cost, and with the medication, Erla tells you that it was Luna who gave her the letter in the first place. It is at this point that the body-snatching twist at the start of the game comes back into play, the spirit realizing that they removed a key person in the story. Why would Luna know this legend? What did she hope to gain from having the scientist originally, and now Matt accidentally digging in the mine for this great power? This is an interesting development, with the spirit seemingly unable to do anything about his current problem due to losing communication with his own realm, and I guess not being able to body snatch someone else since Luna's soul is not able to return either because of the mine? My brain is starting to hurt. Well, Matt is experimenting on himself. Would have been lovely to see a change at all, but oh well. We challenge him to one final duel, and they really hype it up to make it seem like we will fight him directly. For the last two duels, Matt worked similarly to Luna in fights by having a bar of his own and supplying dark magic to his monsters. But unfortunately, we don't. Guess what we fight instead? 3, 2, 1, a mechanical spider. Not even a giant mechanical spider, just an above average one. And after a long, arduous fight of learning his attack patterns, we defeat him. Today is the saddest day of my life. I bet, dude. Join the club. With this, we reveal ourselves to be the spirit, and not Luna, to Matt, and ask him to prevent Luna from seeking this ancient power for herself, as Luna's true soul will return when the spirit finally leaves. Luna was the true villain of this game all along, and because we removed her soul at the beginning of the game, we were unable to directly stop the problem, and this is the best we can do. You've opened my eyes. I'll never become so corrupt and power-hungry again. The end. No true ending either, this is it. But man, we missed a few things. Let's dive in again! The rest of the game is accessed only if you engage in the dress-up portion of the game. According to a quote from Evil Gamus at the time, the best part about this game is not only does it have the usual RPG elements, intriguing storyline, quests, missions, battles, and so forth, but it gives you an opportunity to be creative and customize Luna's attire. The dress-up portion is what really makes the game stand out. Not only can you dress Luna to your liking, but what you wear will also affect how neighbors will treat you. If neighbors like the way you dress, they will start offering you missions, quests, minigames. They'll even offer you better prices and trades. However, if they don't like the way you dress, they might not even talk to you. Cool, except for some things. I can see what they wanted to do with it, with slowly changing clothes colors affecting each NPC's affection levels, and different pieces just being better for different people. But this system, like the rest of the game, is really basic and doesn't go as deep as it could, like character customization in so many other games. You know how many outfits you get to customize? At the start of the game, only 2. After doing side quests? 4. I'm torn as to what caused this. Was it the limitations of the developers? Was it the system in general being too complicated as they put in more outfits? Was it because of the audience and demographic the game was going for? Because there is a quote floating around from the producer of the game. Falling Stars brings on a whole different genre of adventure RPG, says producer Mark Johnson of H-Tech. Gameplay has been designed for young girls and boys in mind, with cute characters, fun minigames, and simplified controls. These features encourage the younger crowd to play and fall in love with their first RPG. Okay, I don't feel comfortable presenting a game like this to a child and saying, this is made for you. It's almost an insult. You'd be surprised what children are capable of if you give them the chance. Although, the story feels a bit like a child wrote it. Nowadays, I wish to see a child write a story like this at all. The last thing are the other minigames, which you have to do a majority of the side quests in order to unlock all of them, since most of them require work from you to set up, or helping someone complete their job so they have time for you. Minigames like create the figure you see, get on your hazmat suit and clean the science lab, baseball with the robot you helped fix, herding rabbits, and Wii archery. Baseball and archery work the same way of having 3 rounds depending on your overall success, but archery one-ups it by having a bonus round of trying to shoot a tiny onion. That's not an apple, that's an onion, which after trying to do for upwards of 3 hours, I have been unsuccessful because all of these games fall under the category of functional. Not precise or intricate, they just work. And trying to shoot what seems to be a few straight pixels of a tiny object is something I am not capable of. To be honest, you might as well go back to rowing your boat for money because the rewards for each minigame are negligibly better, and sometimes worse. Falling Stars is not a game worth trashing at the end of the day, because most of the things it tries to do just come up unfulfilled of whatever the true vision was. Its ways of communicating things is also rough around the edges, especially when it requires to return to one place in order to do different things, like saving, leveling up Comey, and dressing slightly differently, and forcing you to sit through very long loading times. In fact, they were so adamant about you going back to dress differently that all information about NPC's affection towards you, as well as what side quests are still available, minigames, trading, and learning abilities are all trapped into this one interface with no alternatives to improve quality of life. They seem to have been proud of this system, but I can't agree with that now, and people did not agree with it then either. Ket, 32, clothes salesman. Story. He knows he's unattractive to girls and has accepted this? Oh no! Hi everybody, thanks for watching if you really did. It's been fun and a little therapeutic for me to write the past few videos out and put them together, so if you've enjoyed them, thanks. But it is about time to get ready for something to crash land. Coming soon.